Evening. It is now 6:01, and I hereby call this special meeting of the San Benito County Planning Commission to order. If we could please read the temporary procedures.
The San Benito County Planning Commission welcomes your comments. Each individual speaker will be limited to a presentation total of 3 minutes. When addressing the commission via Zoom, phone, or in chambers, please state your name and county in which you reside for the record. Please address the commission as a whole through the chair. If participating in Zoom, select the Participants tab and click the Raise Hand icon. If you are using a phone, please press *9 to raise your hand. When your turn arrives, you will hear that you have been unmuted. If you are participating in person at the chambers, please complete a speaker card identifying the item on which you wish to speak and provide your completed card to the clerk prior to consideration of the item. Speaker cards are available on the table at the entrance to the chambers.
Okay, thank you for that. And the public comment is limited to 2 minutes this evening. And please, no clapping or applause or jeering or anything like that. Please keep it orderly. There will be one warning. After that, there will not be a warning. Thank you. Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Way, if you could lead us in the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
District 1, Vincent Ringhaden.
Present.
District 2, Richard Way.
Present.
District 3, Robert Scagliotti.
Present.
District 4, Robert Gibson.
Present.
District 5, Celeste Toledo Bocanegra.
Present.
Thank you. And I'm going to offer the commissioners another opportunity to make any disclosures about ex parte discussions that you may have or any other things you'd want the public to know. We'll start with Commissioner Toledo.
I spoke with County Council this morning. That's it.
Okay, Commissioner Way.
Nothing to report.
Commissioner Scagliotti.
Nothing to report.
Commissioner Ringhaden.
Hello, I haven't spoken with any, but I would like this opportunity to tell you a little bit more about myself. I'm a recent addition to this beautiful community. I bought a home here in Hollister about 4 years ago. I'm a recently retired electrician. I worked for Cupertino Electric for 23 years. I think it's fair to disclose I live in Santana Ranch, and my wife is a part of Don't Dump on San Benito. I've been married for 15 years. And in this time, I've not always agreed with my wife in everything, in every respect. She's a Niner fan, I'm a lifetime Raider fan. My decisions here tonight are based on the information that I've been presented to by the San Benito County, the opinions of the public that I represent. I've been open-minded and neutral in reviewing the EIR, watching the presentations, listening to the speakers, and all the documents provided to me. In closing, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to represent District 1.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Consent agenda. We have the acknowledgement of certificate of posting. Is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
I make a motion we adopt the consent agenda.
I'll second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Public hearing, item 6.1.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the Planning Commission, members of the audience. Good evening. Abraham Prado, Director of Planning and Building Services. As you know, this item was continued from the original Special Planning Commission meeting of October 11th. After opening up the public hearing, closing it, it was continued to a date certain of Wednesday, October 25th. And then after staff's presentation, the applicant's presentation, opening up the public hearing and hearing testimony for and against the project, Planning Commission continued the item to a date certain of Friday, October 27th. At that meeting this past Friday, the staff also presented. There was a presentation from the applicants. The chair opened up the public hearing, and we did have public comments for and against the project. And after listening to the public, the commission decided to continue the item to a date certain of today, Monday, October 30th. And so here we are today, and we'll have our county counsel, outside county counsel, Bree Muivas, give us an outline of what we're going to be expecting to listen for today. Thank you, Bree.
Is that mic on?
Evening again. I feel like we were just here. So we're back today with the same plan that we've had. So today's the last of the 3 hearings that you had asked for. And you had asked us specifically to return with certain items. And so what we've done over the weekend and today is to revise some conditions of approval, which we would like to present to you to see if it's consistent with what you were requesting. If you'd like any changes to it, we can make those. And so we'll present those. This presentation will be a little bit different because we're presenting these conditions to you tonight. We're going to kind of work with Waste Connections on, they're going to explain some, I'm going to explain some, and a little bit back and forth. And then if you do have questions on the particular conditions, if you just want to stop us during those conditions, and then we can answer those. If you'd like to revise any of the conditions from what we've done, we can do that tonight as well and make any additional revisions to them. Then after that, the applicant will make a brief presentation. Then we will have remaining public comment, and then any responses or clarifications from county staff or the applicant, and then your commission's questions, deliberations, and whatever action you choose to take. And so one of the requests was to come back with a landscaping plan. So Clayton Coles from Waste Connections team is going to go over the landscaping plan that they are proposing.
Good evening. How's the microphone? Okay. So I think the concern was that of the viewscape from the west and from John Smith Road. So what we did is help develop a mitigation measure that requires landscaping along John Smith Road for the entire length of the entrance. I'm not sure if there's a way we can point at things. Oh. I don't know if you can see that pointer, but the goal is to landscape the entire length along the entrance area of John Smith Road. You can bring up the hand. Ah, there you go. Excellent. Okay, got it. There we go. Is to landscape this entire area along the entrance road to provide screening from John Smith Road. And then there's a hill right here that's west of the landfill, and would be, and this is shown as a line, but not necessarily the way it would look, but screen the phase 1. This is the phase 1 landfill. Screen the phase 1 area from the west, and then continue those trees down along the ridge into a visual berm that will be constructed as part of phase 2A of the landfill expansion. There was always intended to be a visual berm in that location to shield the at least the part of the landfill before it gets up above that berm from view. And so in this case, we'd add trees so that wouldn't be too visible from the west. Let's see. Sorry about that. Go to the next slide. There we go. So this is the mitigation measure. So it's prior to issuance of a building permit for expansion of the entrance. And again, prior to initiation of phase 2A of the landfill expansion, the applicant shall prepare plans for design, installation, and maintenance of landscaping consistent with the county code section 25.07.001 landscaping. The first plan would be submitted prior to obtaining the building permit for the entrance. The entrance is going to be a 2-year project, and then a construction project, and then the landscaping would be installed at the end of that construction project after land disturbance is done. And then the portion for up and over the ridge and down into phase 2A would be submitted, and then it would be installed after construction of phase 2A. So it'd be submitted, the plan would be submitted prior to construction of phase 2A, and it would be constructed after 2A, because that's when that berm is going to get built. So you could have the berm there first before you do the landscaping. So indicate that the landscaping would be installed prior to operating the entrance area, and then again prior to phase 2A. So that's the first phase in the expansion area. There's language in here about, excuse me, the degree of screening. So the idea is to provide 80% screening of the queued vehicles on the in the entrance area. And then there's language in here about the types of plants and the survivability of the plants. And one of the things you'll see in here is that we show, I think, 5-gallon potted plants, and then one of the language is for smaller pots for oaks. And the landscape architect, Ann Seaver, she's available online if needed. One of the things she said is that large oaks don't survive as well as small oaks, because small oaks are more adaptable when they're little, and they can adapt to the soil. Large oaks will spread to the limits of where the pot was, and then the roots will stop, and their growth will be stunted, at least temporarily. So over time, the ones that are smaller survive better than the ones that are bigger. So Ann can correct me if I got that wrong. So I'm summarizing here. If you guys have some questions, you can ask. Sorry about that. There we go. I gotta get the right spot. Let's see. There it is. So we talked about the 15 gallons in size, except for oak saplings, and that's the reason we say that. So also one of the requirements is screening from trees and shrubs shall be protected from browsing and burrowing animals until established. And also there's a provision for irrigation for, I think it's at least the first 2 years. And the plants are drought tolerant. Native plants are what are supposed to be used. Any questions on that one?
Any questions regarding that condition? No, thank you.
Cool. There's one more. Oh, yeah. Okay, so I'm sorry, I'm going back to this. The implementation of the landscaping plan shall be included in the 5-year periodic review by Planning Commission pursuant to condition number 23. That's an important thing. There is a review period for it. That's you. Thanks.
And going back just to highlight, this would be a condition of approval. I think Clayton had said mitigation measure, but this would just be a condition of approval added. It was there already. This is just adding a lot more detail as the Planning Commission had requested. And I'd point out on this slide there, it has a substantial number of trees, so we're specifically requiring the trees. And then it will come Planning Commission for review. So if at any time you find the landscaping inadequate, then you could require additional landscaping as well. And then also any dead or dying trees have to be replaced before, if they die before final closure. So for the life of the project, they would need to be replaced in the last sentence there. And going to the haul route, your commission had asked for additional information or more detail on the penalties for an operator who doesn't follow the haul route selected by the Planning Commission. So this is the proposed revision to condition 1C. And here you would select the haul route so that the capitalized language is for the route to be selected. But then going down to the underscored language there, the applicant is proposing that penalties would be $1,000 for the first violation, $2,000, that should say, for the second violation, and $3,000 for the third violation if there was within a 3-year period. And that the applicant shall track any violations by particular haul vehicle operators and shall notify the vehicle operator following any violation of the haul route. If any vehicle operator commits 3 violations of the haul route condition during a 3-year period, the vehicle operator shall be suspended from operating vehicles to the landfill for a period of at least 3 years. And the suspension would be for the driver as it's drafted right now, not the actual transporter or company, but for that driver wouldn't be able to continue transporting to John Smith Road landfill. And then at the end, that the applicant shall also report the status of the haul route compliance violations and penalties as part of the 5-year review with the Planning Commission.
Okay. Does any commissioners have any comments? Yes, Commissioner Scagliotti.
Yes, I think the fines are too low. I think they should be 2,500, 5,000, 7,500. On the third strike, the company is responsible. The company does no longer come into the community. That's what I'd like to see.
Any thoughts from the other commissioners about that? Commissioner Toledo? No. Commissioner Way?
I agree that the fines seem pretty low. I'm not sure what they should be, but, or the business about the operator itself being penalized. The trucking companies that are doing these haulings are, how would you enforce the fines? I mean, who would the fines be paid to? I guess I'm a little confused as to the language. I understand that there are fines involved, but how are they being collected and where are they going?
And I'm going to let Waste come up and talk about what the fines are, the amounts, what the intent of the language is. It's through the contract that Waste Connections would have with the haulers, so the fines would be paid to Waste Connections, not to the county.
Right, that's what I was getting at.
But do
Okay.
you want to come talk about the amounts?
No, it should be paid to the county.
Yeah, I agree, but it isn't the way it's worded.
Right. That's what I'm trying to get at. Is
Yeah.
Just as a matter of a little background, just to describe, how the marketplace functions. You have generators of material from out of county, and there's three possibilities of the flow getting from that generator to the landfill: their own employees, a subcontractor, or independent haulers. So they don't necessarily have entire control of the independent haulers. And that's the rationale for us directing the fine towards the operator of the vehicle. Also, the topic of actually terminating them from service or from coming to the landfill as a company, I think we don't have a problem with that in that we can negotiate that in future contracts. We have an existing contract that does not have that language in it, and that existing contract happens to be with Morgan Hill and Gilroy, whereby the hauler there is the service provider there as well here, Recology. There's no language in that agreement that would allow us to eliminate them from bringing their flow. Again, we do not have a problem for future contracts. That contract, I think it would be impossible, if you will, to impose that at this point, given we've already negotiated that language.
How long does that contract go for?
I think, we have the general manager in the audience. I think it has 20-plus potential years. They have a right to extend it another 15 years after its original, I believe, 15-year life. And we're probably into year 7 or 8 of that contract.
So if they can't be kicked out, then they need to be hit much harder when it comes to the financial cost.
Yep.
In my opinion, so. I
Well-
would concur with Commissioner Scaliotti about raising the fines
I have a question.
significantly.
And we want wording that money comes to the county.
That's fine.
Okay, Commissioner Toledo.
So who would enforce these violations?
We would.
Okay.
Okay, so is there a consensus that it would be, what was it, 2,500, 5,000, and 7,500, and the fines would be directed to the county? Is that what
Yeah.
you just
Once we
agreed to?
collect them. Was it 7,000 or 7,500 for the third strike?
Third strike, 7,500.
75, okay.
And it's going to be that if any public person calls you guys, I want to follow it up on.
Yeah.
That immediately,
Yeah.
that truck number or whoever that driver was, gets it.
Yeah, one other commentary. There are in-county haulers that actually bring tractors and trailers to our facility. I would like to believe that, they have the right to take whatever pathway they choose to the landfill. So there may be the occasion where the public sees a tractor trailer going a different route, and it may very well be one of 2, possibly 3 local haulers.
Okay, well, we'll work on the truck route for Fairview as well, for other local haulers. Thank you. Was that consensus on increasing the fines? Okay,
Yes.
and directing the fines go to the county, fantastic.
And so what I can do is I can work on that language, and then at the end, after you've had public comment on all these issues, then you could actually take a vote if we can go through because you have a couple decision points tonight, but if that works out, but I can work on revised language
Okay.
and then bring it back up.
Sounds good. Thank you.
And this is just, I wanted to capture all the changes to the conditions of approval that are in the agenda packet. So this is the same as the condition that we brought up on Friday. The only change on this is that it says type, on the second line says type of engine and or fuel, just to capture, it had the renewable diesel in there as well. But that this condition would be a new condition added in. But any questions or comments? I believe we have Clean Fleet available by Zoom again if there are questions for him as well.
Any questions regarding that condition? Commissioner Way?
Technically, it should say type of power, I think, or type of, because an electric vehicle does not actually have an engine, it has a motor.
I will make that change.
Any other commissioners have comments, questions? No? Okay, thank you.
And you had also asked about recycled water. Since then, we have confirmed that the city of Hollister did decline to offer I believe it's the Purple Pipe recycled water before, but what we did add is a condition that within 30 days of approval of a general plan amendment by the Board of Supervisors, which is the last discretionary action for this project to be approved, that the applicant shall again contact the city of Hollister and request in writing that the city reconsider its prior decision not to make recycled water available. If the city declines at that time, then the applicant shall continue to make further requests to the city for recycled water service at least every 5 years, and the applicant shall report on these efforts as part of the 5-year periodic review by the Planning Commission.
We're going to keep the future planning commission busy. That's good. Okay, any questions or comments from the planning commission regarding that?
Do we know why we were declined or why the applicant was declined?
I do not know why the email.
Did they give you any reason for?
They simply said, we cannot accommodate you at this time.
Ah,
I tried emailing numerous times and had to keep reminding them, and that was the final answer that I got.
okay, thank you.
And then this is a revised condition as to composting, 2 components, and the composting condition is fairly lengthy, so I didn't type the entire thing, but the first decision point for your commission is it's currently drafted, so when either the county or a third party or another public agency comes forward with a composting plan, the way this drafted currently, that would be submitting to the planning department, and then the planning director would make a determination that it's in substantial compliance with the composting that was analyzed in the environmental impact report. If it was not, then the planning director would refer it to the planning commission for a determination. If it was, the way it's currently drafted, then the planning director could approve the site plan. And so I think there was discussion if you would like the composting facility site plan to come directly to the planning commission versus going to the planning director first. So that was the first decision point, and it's a change. It would just replace essentially planning director with planning commission throughout that condition.
Commissioners? I like it. I like to have a little say in how things happen. Other commissioners, is there a consensus to? Oh, yep,
I'm happy.
okay, there we go, thank you.
And then last is a sentence added at the very end of that condition. So what we are proposing to add is that the applicant shall use reasonably commercial best efforts to cooperate and coordinate with the county or third-party compost operator to facilitate the construction and operation of the composting facility, including considering the possibility of construction and operation on the landfill property, excluding an active or closed landfill cell, subject to the ability to obtain a commercial and reasonable agreement negotiated in good faith, providing for such construction and operation. And the intent of this language, the EIR does consider the possibility of a composting facility happening on the landfill expansion area itself. And at this time, we don't know if that would be the preferred location or not, but if it is for the county or a third-party operator, we do want to have the applicant's commitment to work with the county or that operator to facilitate that.
But that would still leave us the option to use the piece across the road?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Commissioners?
This is not determined where it would be, just really requiring some cooperation from the applicant when that comes forward.
Okay, Commissioner Scagliotti?
No, nothing. I was just gonna say that they can't say no. They have to take our composting facility on their property if that's where we decide to go with it, right?
It's not, no, I would not say it's as black and white as that. So you'll notice in here that it says use reasonably commercial best efforts to cooperate and coordinate. So if what we propose, maybe it would work great for composting, was going to really impact their operations, they would have the opportunity to do that. If county staff felt like they were just saying no to say no, then we could then enforce this condition of approval and return to the planning commission for a determination if they're complying with, are they using best efforts? Are they being commercially reasonable at that? And then the end of that is really talking about a agreement would have to be in place. And if you can think about, depending on where it is, the county does own some of the landfill area, but the applicant owns other. And so we can't just force a third party onto privately owned property without making sure that they have the protections they would want as a property owner. So that's that last part. So they couldn't say no for no reason, but if they had valid reasons to say no, this does give them the ability to do that.
Any other commissioners have comments, questions about that? No, thank you.
And then this is revised condition 41. I can tell you that last sentence that there is already in your conditions of approval. What we heard really from the commission was questions on why isn't more being done on recycling, and we're trying to strengthen the condition as to what recycling is provided and the opportunities at the landfill itself. I will go over it, but I want to highlight the red language is an area of disagreement still. So there was only so many hours between Friday night and today trying to work on the language and reach agreement where we could. But the language, as the county would propose it, would not have the language that's in red, that the applicant shall use, it should say best efforts to increase recycling and diversion efforts, and consider in good faith any written request from the county for coordination or assistance with recycling and diversion. And that the applicant shall continue to accept e-waste, but we wanted to extend that to accept the electronic waste, that they're only accepting a certain limited number of things now. The county would like that to be all electronic waste so that the residents have somewhere to take any electronic waste. And if you can kind of see from those two red language, it's really a commercial or financial limitation that the applicant's seeking, and the county would just like that commitment to implement that. In looking briefly at other landfills, we've seen that other landfills are offering all electronic waste at no cost to the residents there for that. And some landfills, for example, have a recycling coordinator or more effort. So we would like to see more effort on that part, but the red language is where we weren't able to reach an agreement before returning today. Would you like to add anything? Did I miss? Yeah, I thought that was something else.
Good evening. Kurt Fuji, Regional Engineer for Waste Connections, the parent company to the landfill operator, Regional Engineer for Northern California. When this first came up, our concern was that under California's way of operating, certain electronic wastes are eligible for a payment from the state. When you buy what's called a covered electronic device, which is typically something with a screen, you pay a fee over and above the price of that device that goes into a fund that is used to encourage electronic waste recycling. And so these devices, covered electronic waste, CEW, are eligible for payment from the state to collectors or recyclers. And that's currently what we are collecting, our CEWs. Our concern was simply that either we or our vendor who collects these may suffer a financial loss if we begin to accept non-CEW e-waste. We don't really want to make a big deal of this. Bree said we were talking about this right before we walked in. I had a person that I trust, and I think Selena trusts, who knows some things about it. So I think we're willing to talk about this. We just don't want either Waste Connections or our vendor to suffer a significant financial loss. That's all.
Okay, is there any data from surrounding landfills that would show that there's going to be a significant loss to?
Larry was talking about that. He said he could provide data from e-waste recycling companies that we would look at. And the only thing I would mention is the public tipping fee at landfill X may say you can get rid of any e-waste you want to at no charge, but perhaps the cost, if you have somebody sorting, managing, we don't have any employees out there actively monitoring that right now. If we had to add somebody, there may be some costs that are figured into the tipping fee, but we're not going to die. I mean, I think this is not a big, this is something we can work out with staff.
Well, and the tipping fee is also artificially low because the county's been using the profits to write that off. So
Right.
those may have to be adjusted for everyone that's
Right.
tossing trash into the landfill.
There's data out there. We are willing to look at it cooperatively with your staff, and I think we can work something out.
Okay. Selena?
Yeah, and I think, if there is any sort of disagreement, to bring it back to the Planning Commission to sort that out and make sure there are reasonable commercial best efforts are being sought.
Okay. Thank you. Any comments, questions from the commission regarding that subject? No. Okay.
And I would just note, the first sentence is not limited to electronic waste. It's just that second sentence, but the efforts as to recycling is not just electronic waste. And then turning to daily tonnage, what we are proposing, I'm going to go through, I tried to put together a chart so you can kind of see what this would look like in numbers with the alternatives in front of you, but that the landfill will be limited to accepting a maximum of, and then you would make that determination, tons per week of buried material, and in no event shall that tonnage on a particular day exceed an amount that you would determine. And the idea of this is that it would be based on, and we talked about this a little bit Friday, but it would be based on a weekly amount because it does fluctuate. So it's not a determined amount, but then the peak that you determine would never be hit on any given day, and the peak could never be higher than what was analyzed in the environmental impact report. And then beneficial reuse, this is the same as it's always been, does not count for that. And again, with the trucks and cars, the applicant has asked that we exclude smaller trucks with 3 or fewer axles, such as roofing, building, and construction and demolition contractors from that total truck count. And to break it down a little bit, because I want to get into numbers, but I think it's helpful to understand where the numbers are in the environmental review and where they came from. But I'm going to jump ahead. So this tries to give you the numbers based on what you approve. So for example, if you were to approve the proposed 2300 project, that would be a maximum of 14,860 tons a week of buried material. And the peak could never go above 2,300 on a given day. The applicant, and just on business model, they anticipate the out-of-county flow coming Monday through Friday. Those contracts really don't operate on Saturdays and Sundays, and so that's when you'd see those peak days. Then your maximum daily vehicle limit, and you'll see that's the same for all of them. And that's because a lot of that, the peak vehicle limit is based on what's existing at the landfill, and a lot of that is the special days where it's actually a lot of residents coming to the landfill on special event days. But that's what that has determined there. And then we have gone and set a weekly maximum of haul trucks, and then a daily peak of haul trucks as well. And this is based on the assumptions in the EIR. And going back, so these are just excerpts from the EIR to explain how we have those numbers. And if you look at those bottom bullets there, so the EIR looked at that when 1,000 tons a day were approved, the operator was taking in about 923 tons per day, and that's about 92.3% of their permitted capacity, or their daily permitted amount. And so then the EIR assumed that if you approved 2,300 tons per day, then it would be 92.3% of that, consistent with its operations, coming in at a given time, which would be about 2,123 tons as an average. Then the EIR also looked at peak days, and again, if you go down to those bulleted ones at the last bullet there, it talked about 2,300 being a proposed peak. So that would be the days that would go above that 92% as a proposed peak day on those. So that is where the numbers in the chart come from, is that it's at 92.3% if you calculated the amount times 7 days and had that weekly amount. For the cap, and where you have a decision point ahead of you on the 1,700 and 1,000 ton alternatives, you'll see that the peak day, so you'd have your weekly amount, and then a peak could be set at 1,700 for that alternative, or 1,000. What the applicant is asking for is that peak be set that it could be no greater than 2,300, but on those alternatives of reduced tonnage, its peak days could go higher than 1,700, for example, or higher than 1,000. It would not be the same tonnage buried as the proposed 2,300 ton, because you'll look at the weekly average that limits it. So that would still set that. It just gives them a little bit more flexibility on what days those are coming in. Any questions on?
Any, Commissioner Way?
Yeah, I'm struggling with the numbers here. I think we had been talking about 95 or something in that range trucks, and I'm trying to mesh that with the 600 number that I'm seeing in here, and I know it's apples and oranges, but I'm just not quite grokking it.
Yeah, and the maximum daily vehicles is everybody coming, and that was determined at Saturdays, Sundays, but special events that are held at the landfill for residents, and that's really where you hit that maximum tonnage. The charts in the AR tell you your average days, and I just don't have it at my fingertips right now, or memorized, but it goes through that. But that's that maximum peak. So that's a maximum number of cars, trucks, anything that can come through the landfill in a given day.
Okay, so that's not all haul trucks.
No, not at all. So that's you driving to the landfill, you know, to bring a mattress or something like that.
Okay, thank you.
Or Christmas tree. I think the main peak day was recycling Christmas trees after, or that was one of the peak days.
Commissioner Toledo?
I'm not sure if this is the right time to bring this up, but since we're talking about the tonnage, last meeting on October 27th, we had a 10% increase if we had a transfer station. Did we get the total that I requested if we only brought in 300 per day? What would it cost? What increase would it be for the residents?
And I believe Sangeeta's on Zoom, and is she promoted? And can go into that more. And then one consideration I think one of you mentioned as well is the county's been covering the COLA increase. If we were at 300 tons per day, it would probably be less likely the county would be covering that increase. But I believe Sangeeta's online, and I'll let her answer that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Toledo. So the question you asked on Friday was how the 300 ton per day alternative would affect the curbside rate, as I understand. And so, so for the transfer station alternative, the revenue analysis I presented on Friday calculated a recovery cost, as there's no terms in the county agreement currently with the applicant addressing a transfer station. But for the landfill project and alternatives, the revenue analysis that was performed to evaluate the county's revenue doesn't address the applicant's cost or cost effectiveness of the project or its landfill alternatives. So rather, an inflationary increase in rates was assumed. It's also noted that the highest gate rate would be the average of the Johnson Canyon Marina landfills, which are also assumed to increase based on inflation. So it is possible that given the lower county revenue for the 300 ton per day alternative, that the county would increase the gate rate to cover the 2 to 6% COLA payments, which would cause the rates for the 300 ton per day alternative to increase more rapidly than perhaps the other alternatives. And there is a bit of a snowball effect since the COLA is calculated based on the in-county gross revenue. So as the gate rates increase, the COLA is calculated on larger gross revenue every year. But I would assume that the percentage of the curbside rate for the 300 ton per day alternative would remain at approximately 9 to 10% of the curbside rate calculation. And the curbside rate would essentially increase with inflation. So I don't really have, a similar type number as we did for the transfer station where it might increase by 10%. I would definitely assume it'd be less than 10% because those rates, I don't think would approach the transfer station rates. So does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you so much, Ms. Lewis.
No problem.
Commissioner Ringhayden?
My question is, why are we paying COLA? Why are we paying COLA?
It was part of the agreement that the board. Bree, if you'd like to speak on that.
Please, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
I'm trying to catch up.
Yeah, absolutely. So there is a landfill operating agreement, and this is a contract really between the county and the applicant. It was originally enacted in 2010 or executed in 2010, and it's been amended since then multiple times. And so as a part of those negotiations, that's where the county's revenue is determined on the landfill, but that's also where in the original 2010 agreement, it carves out certain responsibilities that are the county's. One of those is to ensure essentially a certain revenue to the operator, and so it lists out things that the county is then responsible for. So for example, a significant change in the law, cost of living adjustment, become a county responsibility. The county then has the decision to pay that directly or to pass that to the ratepayers. Historically, the county has been covering that. I believe this past year was the first time that the board elected to pass that and increase rates. But it's really the operating agreement, the contract. A contract can be amended. It's been amended, I believe we're on the 4th Amendment at this time. I can tell you that the county did request negotiations of the landfill operating agreement once the environmental analysis was done for this project, and those negotiations were not successful. We can't use this project or the approval to require amendment to the operating agreement. And so returning to, well, why do we talk about it? Why have we given you a presentation on it? Why have we talked about that? And that goes to what's before you today, which is the project and the request of the applicant, and your duty to determine whether the environmental review is adequate under CEQA, the California Environmental Quality Act. And through that analysis, so we've gone over, there are significant and unavoidable impacts to the environment. We've gone over those in the last couple meetings. When, under state law, there are significant and unavoidable impacts, you cannot approve the project unless you make a statement of overriding considerations. The statement of overriding considerations is you're weighing the impacts to the environment against the benefits of the project. And those benefits can be community benefits, for example, having a local landfill to go to, could be a clean closure of the Class 1. They can also be economic benefits, the revenue to the county, general fund revenue, revenue for roads, but revenue coming to the county, the economic benefits, and you're tasked with weighing those impacts against the benefits of the project and determining if the benefits outweigh it so that you can certify the EAR. That was a very long answer to your simple question, but.
Great answer, thank you.
Any other commissioners have comments or questions? Commissioner Way?
Yeah, just a quick question about certifying the EIR, which I guess we'll be asked to do later on this evening. Does the act of certifying the EIR include, by necessity, the determination of overriding considerations? In other words, is it possible to say that the EIR itself is fine, but we don't agree that the overriding considerations outweigh the okay, so it's a separate.
It is separate, and it's a different step. You
Okay.
cannot approve the project, though, without making the statement of overriding considerations.
Right.
But you can find that the environmental analysis was adequate, but there would be no approved project.
All right, thank you.
Any other commissioners have comments at this time? Okay, please proceed.
And then the inclusion of the Class 1 closure, you had asked the applicant if there was a lower tonnage amount with which they would clean close the Class 1. And as we've discussed, they do propose that with the 2,300 tons proposed, and they have also proposed that with the 1,700 tons alternative with the weekly maximum that we talked about that would allow peak days, though, to exceed the 1,700. So they're asking for, if we go back to this chart here, they're saying that they would do it with the 1,700s, but with that blue language that the peak days could exceed the 2,300, but would not exceed the weekly average there. Did I capture that correctly? Weekly total, I'm sorry. This. Oop. Speeding right ahead. Yeah, so that is the weekly total, not average. I apologize. And you also had asked to expedite the clean closure of the Class 1. So this would be a new condition of approval about the closure of the Class 1 timing, and that the applicant shall use its best efforts to complete the clean closure of the existing enclosed Class 1 disposal facility within 15 years following approval of the general plan amendment. And they have to work with the city, with the Department of Toxic Substances Control, and Central Coast Regional Water Quality Control Board to achieve that. So there's a lot of approvals that have to happen for that clean closure to occur. But this would expedite it. It was about 50 years we were projecting. This would expedite it to within the first 15 years. And they would report back to you in the 5-year review on where the status of that is. And I think someone from the applicant team could probably give a better explanation as to why 15 years, when they've broken down the steps, why they think the 15 years would be the right amount of time.
Because hopefully none of us will be here in 15 years, and I'd like to see it happen myself.
I hope to be here, but.
Not on the planning commission. I hope to be on Earth, just not here.
Hi, Clayton Coles with Lawrence and Associates again. So
Thank you. You're tall.
one of the issues with the Class 1 area is there's a 630,000 cubic yard stockpile on top of it right now. So that stockpile has to be removed before we can get down to the point where we can do the investigation that's needed to get permission to close it. And so I think we have in our, we assume 70,000 cubic yards a year would be excavated for daily cover for the landfill. And that's how it's planned to get that stockpile used up. And then after that, we have a year allocated for the investigations, and then Department of Toxic Substances Control that regulates that landfill takes forever. So we assume 2 years for permits for that. And then it would take a year to do the closure, and then probably another year for approval.
Okay. Commissioner Scagliotti?
Yes, what is the city's Hollister? Have you approached the city of Hollister to see how they'll help? Has anybody asked them what their monetary contribution might be, or they're just sitting back waiting for the county to take care of it?
Anybody?
Anybody?
I personally had conversations with city staff about cleaning up the Class 1 site. For starters, it wasn't necessarily on the radar of the city. The city owns that property, as we discussed at previous meetings. I think the intention was, once we identify the scope of the contamination and what we believe is, in place there, with outliners, that, it was our determination that we would handle those costs. And if those costs are greater than what we believe exists there, we would approach the city about cost sharing. And so, Clayton talked about the various steps leading up to that. That's taking off the surcharge soil, ratably over a period of time for daily cover. And at that point, we're able to sample it and really get our arms around the length and breadth of the contamination. We believe, it's a certain level, and based upon that level, we're willing to bear those costs. So, one of many approaches might be that we purchase that property from the city for $1 and take that on. Once we've quantified what those costs might be and what the extent of the contamination is. If it's greater, then the further conversations would be had with the city of Hollister.
Any other commissioners have comments, questions?
So you have, Paul, you have no clue as to what's down there right now. You don't know how bad
Clayton,
it
I
is.
think you can answer this a little better.
You stole my question.
Sorry about that.
That's good.
Clayton Coles again. Based on the information that we were able to uncover when we were working on the draft EIR, there's two what are called impoundments, and what they were used was to rinse off spray equipment with pesticides on them, pesticides residue. So in impoundment 1 is lined with clay, and it has approximately 1.5 feet of residue, which is soil that contains some pesticides. That's the hazardous stuff. Then beneath that is a clay liner, and beneath that native soil. So what we're assuming is that impoundment 1, which is 0.43 acres, we'd have to excavate 5 feet as hazardous waste. Now, it's been a long time. It's been 30 years since it was 1992 when it was investigated. So it may very well bioremediated by now, but we just don't know. On the other hand, it was, the information we have is based on a limited number of sample points. So there could be other spots that are more contaminated. So that's kind of the limitation. And then impoundment 2, I think, which is 0.18 acres, was non-hazardous, was identified as non-hazardous. And we're assuming that would be, continue to be non-hazardous. So our assumption was we'd have to dig up 3,500 cubic yards of hazardous waste and take it to a hazardous waste landfill.
Any other commissioners have comments or questions
Thank you.
regarding that? And that's before you, that's as quickly as we can get it done, 15 years to start the process? There's no way to knock a 1 off or knock the 5 off and put in a 0?
Well, it depends upon how quickly the soil is used. You know, the most economical way to do it is to use the soil beneficially and not move it to someplace else and then have to move it again. That would just add cost.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
And to follow up, the city did reach out, I believe, Friday and asked a meeting with the county about the expansion project. And I believe that meeting is set for tomorrow of this week. So, but we haven't had that meeting yet, but they did request that. And I did want to, it was asked to clarify as well, on the inclusion of the class 1, this is what the applicant has proposed. And as we've said throughout, the applicant can agree to do it at any tonnage or that, but this is what they've agreed to that we put up here, but you can still request it at any other tonnage as well.
Okay. Thank you.
And I believe those were the conditions that we were asked to return with, but if there's any that we missed or any additional questions, we're happy to answer those now.
Before we go to the next item, do the commissioners have any questions? No. Okay. Please proceed.
And at this time, I think the applicant wanted to make a short presentation.
Yeah, good evening, Paul Nelson, John Smith Road Landfill Waste Connections. Since 1968, John Smith Road Landfill has been part of San Benito County's critical infrastructure to protect human health and the environment. Since that time, the landfill has fulfilled its purpose and provided dependable, cost-effective solid waste disposal for county residents and businesses. Now, federal regulations intended to force closure of these essential rural facilities threaten this county resource. Waste Connections has worked with the county to preserve this asset so it will not only continue to provide long-term waste management under county control, but also a much-needed revenue source for the county. We at John Smith Road Landfill have a talented team running the landfill with the backing of a highly qualified, environmentally focused company. I want to thank you for your consideration and note that it's these important relationships that can make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Before we go to public comment, do the commissioners have any last questions or comments? No? Okay, just a reminder for the public comment that it's limited to 2 minutes. And please, no applause or anything else that interrupts the meeting. And again, we will finish up the chambers and then go to Zoom, so please make sure you have your speaker card in before we go to Zoom. If you could repeat the temporary procedures, please.
Absolutely, Chair. The San Benito County Planning Commission welcomes your comments. Each individual speaker will be limited to a presentation total of 2 minutes. When addressing the commission via Zoom, phone, or in chambers, please state your name and county in which you reside for the record. Please address the commission as a whole through the chair. If participating via Zoom, select the Participants tab and click the Raise Hand icon. If you are using a phone, please press *9 to raise your hand. When your turn arrives, you will hear that you have been unmuted. If you are participating in person at the chambers, please complete a speaker card identifying the item on which you wish to speak and provide your completed card to the clerk prior to consideration of the item. Speaker cards are available on the table at the entrance to the chambers. Thank you.
Please proceed.
Okay, I would like to invite up Michael Bozenfiau. You may approach the podium. You will have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Michael Goshenfiau. I have a business here, and I reside both here and in Monterey County. I'm in favor of the expansion, and the one thing I wanted to bring up is my concern is if a transfer station is required, that could be rather challenging financially for all of us. I think that San Benito County could use infusion of funds. That $3 or $4 million extra could address a lot of the issues that people here have. It's up to you guys to decide how to use those funds, but we could desperately use that here. There's only 100 operating landfills in the state. They're not opening new ones. I don't know how many years ago they opened the last one, but we have a jewel here, and we should use it smartly. I think we have a working corporate partner here that wants to work in partnership with the community. We got to figure out a way to create a bridge and address some of these challenges that we're dealing with. But I'm in favor for expanding it, using it smartly, and benefiting this beautiful community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Julian Perez, please approach the podium. You will have 2 minutes.
Good evening, Commissioners. Over the past 2 weeks and months, I've observed the different school of thoughts regarding landfill expansion, and both sides have very valid concerns. However, I've noticed one common recurring thing amongst both parties, and that's the notion that this landfill expansion shouldn't be about money, but rather our community. And I wholeheartedly agree with this sentiment, and it's the exact reason why I encourage each and every one of you to consider moving forward with the landfill expansion. Now, I know some view this as a dilemma to our community, but I like to view it as an opportunity for growth and to partake and capitalize on smart growth and responsible planning for our future. Our county is growing rapidly, and as our population increases, so does the amount of waste we produce, and that increases the need for a landfill. Otherwise, we increase the chances of waste being disposed amongst the side of our roads, behind alleyways, in front of some of our homes, and so forth. It also raises the question of where will we be in 10 to 15 years from now if we don't move forward with an expansion? What will we do, and what struggles will this place in our community? I know many of us here tonight are thinking about the future, which entails our community, our families, our workforce, and so on. I know I am. And 15, 20, or 30 years from now, when I'm old, with gray hair, a dad bod, and hopefully little ones and myself, I hope we have a county where it's a place to call home, and it's filled with improved roadways, with a strong local economy, and opportunities for growth, and parks and attraction centers. All of this is viable with the help of corporations like Waste Connections. And I think we should be fostering these relationships and cultivating them to improve our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Barbara Tadeo, please approach the podium. You will have 2 minutes.
Barbara Tadeo, and I live at Heatherwood Estates. My biggest concern is just this last Sunday, what did I see? Dump trucks that we're talking about this evening going down John Smith Road to the landfill on Sunday. How can I see it? I see John Smith Road from my house, and you can hear them going rumbling down the street. So to say that they are not coming in now is a false statement. Second, at night, I see the lights from the dump, and when I'm outside feeding my animals late into the evening. Second of all, I'm tired of you saw pictures of my water that were taken in 22 November, just a year ago. It's still bad. It's not black like it was, but it's destroyed 2 water heaters. It's what the dump should do is pay for our water filtration systems for the houses that are being exposed to what is getting into our aquifer, just like they do in Flint, Michigan. I have pipes that are just black from the water. It's ridiculous. And the smell of bleach on a daily basis is ridiculous. It already killed 1 pony and 2 cats of mine. and I know several neighbors who have had cancer. So we're in a cancer pocket. And so this is why I really feel that we need to get a water filtration system on the houses that don't have them already, and it should be paid for by the dump. As far as the smell, can you imagine what it's like going down Seabest and having that same smell coming our direction? Our dump is made for San Benito County, not to bring in 80% of the garbage.
Thank you.
Barry Katz, please approach the podium. You will have 2 minutes.
Hi, I'm Barry Katz. I live in Aromas. So I'm just a very concerned citizen of San Benito County. It's not in my backyard. I don't drive Highway 25, but I'm very concerned about the people that do live nearer and the people visiting. But I've changed what I want to talk about. Over the past week, I've heard major changes to this plan. The comment period was 45 days, I believe. It was a very long time ago. Now we're totally changing the haul route. When I posted something on Facebook about that, I'm getting, oh, they're not going to use Best Road. So people have not aware of the change and have had no opportunity to comment on the change, except a few of us who come here and get 2 minutes. Now I hear, instead of 151 trucks per day maximum, 186 trucks per day. And then the alternative one, somehow with a sleight of hand, changed from 1,700 maximum tons per day to 2,300 tons per day. So all you're getting is the whole thing. You really don't, it's a whole new thing. This should go to a whole new comment period, give people a chance to respond, and then their comments should be replied to again. This is preposterous. These changes are serious changes. 15 years to get rid of what's considered a toxic site, that's ridiculous. People say cost. You should be asking, how much? What is the cost to move that stockpile off of there? Probably not that much. And the longer you wait, the more there will be to change, to deal with. The plume may spread. You could potentially have water contamination going on below. It needs to be dealt with. To say it's going to be dealt with at no cost to the county in 15 years is to say it's not going to be dealt with. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sandy Patterson Jamark, please approach the podium. You will have 2 minutes.
Sandy Patterson Jamark. Good evening, Chair, Commissioners, audience. Again, we come back to these trucks that are going to be going over the road. California Vehicle Code 22406 states these trucks can't go over 55 miles an hour, folks. Are you going to put governors on them to make sure they're not over 55 miles an hour? That's the California Vehicle Code. We have to go by state law. Are you going to have somebody that's going to follow them? I know I'll be out there watching. And I know how to, 40 years in law enforcement, I know how to regulate speed and what it looks like. Also, again, are you going to have class 1, class A drivers? Okay, who's going to provide that? Who's going to hire those? The requirements: possess a high school diploma or GED, preserve a good driving record, have a Class D license for at least 1 year and in good standing, be at least 18 years old to drive in-state, 21 to drive out-of-state, possesses proof of California residency, possess a Social Security card, be able to show proof of insurance, pass a 10-year background check, pass a TSA screening, that's your hazmat, folks, pass a medical examination, and pass periodic drug testing. Who's going to do that? Is the landfill going to pay for it? The county? You're going to pass it down to us in taxes? Then you come to that battery. On these battery vehicles, I don't know about you, but I've seen these Teslas try to go up a hill, and they need to be like Fred Flintstone and go out with the foot and push them up, okay? And you're going to try to put 80,000 pounds They weigh 10 to 15,000 pounds, these batteries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Elvia Scow, please approach the podium. You will have 2 minutes.
Elvia Scow, concerned San Benito resident. Good evening, commissioners and the general public. In 2010, our past leaders put money above the health and safety of our community. So let's talk money. First quarter of 2010, landfill gross revenue was almost $1 million. County received $205,000. I only have 2 minutes, so let me fast forward to the third quarter of 2015. Landfill gross revenue was $3 million, which the county only received $186,000, and the out-of-county trash increasing substantially, yet less county revenue. These numbers don't make sense. Seems to only benefit Waste Solutions. Per October 27th presentation, why was the income to the county flatlining, but the revenue to Waste Solutions keeps skyrocketing with a dramatic increase of out-of-county trash? Maybe we should consider studying the cost of sustaining a Superfund site 3.5 times larger than Great America. This landfill expansion will affect all residents of San Benito County. We have over 1,000 signatures from concerned residents recently submitted to the commissioners. Highway 25 has 2 areas where it bottlenecks from 2 lanes to 1 by Target traveling south and 25 in San Felipe traveling north, right in the center of our community. Approving this project would be reckless, irresponsible, and dangerous. Furthermore, the fees San Benito County is collecting now is requesting to be returned to their employee COLA. How many new employees and for how many years will we be paying for their employees on this huge project? And now they want reimbursement for the mitigation on their EIR? Then we're told that the county general funds will be paying for shore road repair after 12 years of their heavy waste hauling trucks? This company is a shell game. Think about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Neil Smith, please approach the podium. You will have 2 minutes.
Yeah, thank you. My name's Neil Smith. I live on Fairview Road in San Benito County in District 1. Just a couple of things, just from just a layman's point of view, it just seems like such a drastic expansion to go from 95 acres to nearly 390 acres. It's a lot. One of my main concerns is we just don't have the infrastructure to handle the projected increase in heavy truck traffic, especially. Anybody that drives around here knows, I mean, our roads are literally broken. I mean, our roads going out 25, Shore, Fairview, it's a parking lot. AM, PM, it takes hours and hours and hours. And yet you want to do a dramatic expansion with this many X number of vehicles, especially out-of-county vehicles coming our way. It just doesn't seem to make common sense to me. It just doesn't. All in all, I just feel like there's just a real poor balance between the city, not you, and county in development and infrastructure, mainly our roads. That balance is just not there right now. Look, in my driveway, just prior to the county-only restrictions on landfill use, I found rebar, wood with screws, nails, diapers, trash, you name it, it's been in my driveway. Large trucks just flying right down my road. I'm not the only one. I'm sure there's many others just like me that have had to clean this up, and I really wouldn't want to see it to happen to anybody else coming along this way. You know, it just, to me, it just seems like a lot, and it's just this out of county. In county, I wouldn't even mind paying a higher fee if it stayed in county, just for county residents only. And for these reasons, I'm really firmly opposed to this expansion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jane Dabo Cruz, please approach the podium. You will have 2 minutes.
Good evening. It's a much shorter message tonight.
My name is Jane Dabo Cruz. I'm a resident of Hollister, and I was born and raised in San Benito County. The presentation to your commission for the expansion of the landfill has certainly been impressive. All of those who participated, representatives with legal and engineering input, were quite well informed, and the PowerPoint slides were definitely fact-filled. The plan offered is designed to seriously benefit the for-profit business of the operators. But the county got out of the waste management business many years ago, and only the waste management business, which serves the residents of San Benito County, should be your focus. If you really feel that this proposal merits more exploration, the Commission and the Board of Supervisors must allow the county residents, your shareholders, to entertain the option. The proposal needs to be a ballot measure to permit your shareholders the opportunity to express their opinion and decide on the merits of this grandiose plan. The proposal spans multiple decades and cannot offer any acceptable routes. The John Smith Road location was never meant to be such an elaborate design. It's the county dump after all.
Thank you.
Tom Armbruster, please approach the podium. You will have 2 minutes.
Hi, good evening, Board. I'm Tom Armbruster. I live here in Hollister. It's going to be hard to follow the last three. They were pretty eloquent in their statements against the dump. There are so many cons. I don't know what your decision trees look like, but mine's really lopsided. And it's not in favor of this dump. I'm going to skip over just to the haul route. If you're thinking of bringing 53-foot trailers right through the main part of Hollister, forget about, tire scrubbing. If you've seen some of these trucks, they've looked like they've gone through the Mojave Desert on a bad day. And you're going to bring them right through the heart of Hollister. It's obscene, to put it lightly. On Sunday, I saw a trailer. It could have been the same trailer that this other old lady saw. He came off McCluskey. He almost went to the other side of the T intersection to make the turn. I saw it myself. And their wonderful tarps that they're supposed to have on these trucks was flapping in the wind. And all his Waste Connections does is promise, 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 promise. Thank you.
Thank you.
Carl Scow, you may approach the podium. You will have 2 minutes.
Good afternoon. Carl Scow, San Benito County. I feel it is an injustice and an insult to concerned citizens to have commitment time reduced to 2 minutes. As I stated on Friday, let me back up a little humorous. Friday, I was sitting here in this chair, and around the middle of the lobby was a bunch of the proponents telling how bad the traffic was for their commute back and forth to Hollister. And then they stand up here for over 2 hours and tell us how great the dump's gonna be. Okay, as I stated on Friday the 27th, the road impact report dated October 4th has major errors and should not be acted on tonight. In fact, I believe it opens you up for a lawsuit. And these numbers concur with what Bree brought up. The major problem with this report is it does not include any of the 25% additional exempt recycling, green waste, transfer trucks in the tonnage factors. This waste hauls over our roads and is referenced in our EIR 3.52 and is required to be included in these roadway calculations. No factoring of clay, gravel, water, or the removal of all the dirt coming from this Section 1 dump are even involved in this. All trucks haul weight. This report also excludes the 300-ton day option, which should be in per our EIR. No inflation factors. You bring this all along, and we're talking almost 1,000 trucks per week. That's 2,000. Let's go with 1,900. Let's go with Bree's numbers. That could be up to 1,900 trips in front of our hospital every week, right down there through town. This leaves all the county road share costs, the road impact calculations, the road expenses, the road life expectancy
Thank you.
in error.
Bridget Bowman-Thorpe, please approach the podium. You will have 2 minutes.
Hi, Chair and Commissioners. I just want to read you something real quick from the California EPA. California Climate Commitment invests billions of dollars to lead the world in fighting climate change, and is designed to involve and benefit all Californians. In a 2022 scoping plan approved by the California Air Resource Board in December 22 is a world-leading roadmap to address the climate change that cuts greenhouse gas emissions by 85% and achieves carbon neutrality in 2045. Now, what is this here? Significant, unavoidable impacts, cumulative air quality criteria pollutants project would have a cumulatively considerable contribution to significant cumulative impacts. You're willing to put a landfill here that pollutes our air. You're poisoning our air. This guy who just said he wants to be here in 15 years and wants to have a good life, well, I can only tell him, I hope he's still alive and doesn't have cancer and any respiratory problems, especially for his kids. So they don't get poisoned by all the diesel fuel emissions. This is not the future. We have to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And I just want to point something out. The money is there. Go see Rivas, go see your state, go see the feds, get some grants. The sewage system from San Juan Bautista to the city, guess what? They got $1 million from EPA with Congressman Panetta support, $3 million from the state with support from Senator Caballero and Assembly Member Rivas.
Thank you.
Go get the money.
Andy Shaw Karan, please approach the podium. You will have 2 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Andy Shaw Koran. Basically, you're doing a cost-benefit analysis. That's what you were told, that you had to find benefits that outweighed the environmental costs, the detriments to this community that the EIR says you can't mitigate. So greenhouse gases, traffic, torn up roads, dangerous traffic conditions, and what are these benefits? Anybody looking at it would have to say, where is it? And what it seems to me is if you were to go ahead and approve this, it would essentially say This is the capital of where you go to find a patsy, to find a mark, to find somebody who's extraordinarily gullible, because there are no such benefits to this community. And, you know, they talk about this being the regional dump. Well, why don't we become the regional place for all bad ideas? Come here and bring in everything that could possibly deteriorate our environment. Somebody makes money on it, and we're the ones who go, sure, we'll do it here. I don't think that's what the people of our community want, and I think they're going to stand up and say they don't want it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mary Shaw Karan, please approach the podium. You will have 2 minutes.
Thank you. I believe that this proposal, you know, if you take a step back, this is really about becoming a dumping ground for mostly Silicon Valley. Before they had to stop, it was 80% of the garbage was coming from counties in Silicon Valley, maybe a few other ones. And I think someone in this group calculated that 90% would be from Silicon Valley with this expansion. You know, this is really unconscionable. There's no reason for this county to become that desperate. Other people have talked about the costs, and let's take a look at it. You know, when you look at the costs, a lot of you are not evaluating the long-term costs. I want to read, I was Googling on landfill liners the other day, and this is what, you can look it up on Wikipedia. It says, the United States Environmental Protection Agency has stated that the barriers, that is liners, will ultimately fail. So landfill sites will remain threats for thousands of years. This suggests that modern landfill designs only delay but do not prevent groundwater and surface water pollution. Wikipedia. So basically what this is saying is in the long run, this is going to become a Superfund site. Hollister is going to have a very large Superfund site for Silicon Valley. And I think that when you look at the cost of that, it's simply not worth it. We are a community, Hollister especially, is dependent on groundwater. And if in the future, I don't know how many years that'll be, you are going to basically decide that future generations will have to ship their water here. That's a huge expense. So look at the cost of that in the long run. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Bill Hunter, please approach the podium. You will have 2 minutes.
Well, good evening. So I'm simply asking you to make your decision on what's best for the residents of our county. I don't think we have a responsibility to bail out other counties or to worry about the bottom line for Waste Solutions. One other thing that I might like to ask is those that are in favor of and would benefit from enlarging the dump, how many of them have contributed to the contributions to our supervisors? Because I'm afraid that, to me, it seems like our supervisors have been bought, and this is just one more thing that shows they're not looking out for the residents of San Benito County, but other outside interests. So please do what's right for us.
Thank you.
Joseph Howard, please approach the podium. You will have 2 minutes.
Thank you. I just want to say, yeah, actually, I think I am the youngest person here. I just want to start off by discussing the nature of the environmental impact report. It's fairly comprehensive, but it does not account for the other impacts this project would have on all things San Benito County. This project, if improved, not only have environmental and medical impacts, but also economic, cultural, and even political impacts. Let's start with economics. High interest rate, along with an unsightly garbage mountain that leaks various poisons into the land, which, by the way, just want to remind you guys, you have a responsibility to clean the county, not bury us in trash. The it would be bad for business, really. I mean, you know, having such a large mountain, it would drive down housing prices, which means less property taxes. People would get their houses reassessed because they'll want to leave, which will, again, bring down the property tax revenue. You won't get the money. Like, you just won't, okay? I mean, like, the demand won't be there. The money supply is going down with the interest rates. You're not going to get the money. Don't even think about it. As for we know the roads will not survive the expansion. My math was done on earlier numbers before all the changes that one of our friends talked about. I did not know about this, but when I did the math, updated the math, it's about one haul truck going through every 7 minutes and 45 seconds. The roads cannot survive that. They will not survive that. That's way too much. It's also worth noting that you know, if you wish to stay in local politics, this is something that people will remember. Even if you don't, people will still remember you anyways, as you know, for the kinds of for which side you stand on. They'll remember the people who opted to poison our motherland, cripple our county government, pulverize our infrastructure, stunt our economy, and deplete our culture. It's not just medical. It's not just environmental. This will attack everything that makes a civilization, both now and later and forever, in every way possible, all at once. And I think it's unfair that I will have to inherit that.
Thank you.
Rudy Pichet, please approach the podium. You will have 2 minutes.
Hello, Commission. Hello, San Benito County residents. My name is Rudy Pichet, and a longtime resident. I represent a lot of people who live in the Fairview corridor. And you know, I meet a lot of people, right? And they always ask me, man, where are you from? You know, and I always tell them I'm from Hollister, right? Hollister, California. A small town turned big city overnight, right? That's what I tell them. Think about that. Think about that, please. Now, I understand that many believe that we need to move forward with this expansion in its current form, right? We got to take the deal, right? And I understand we need the funding. We need the funding for some much-needed roadway improvements and other things. And John Smith's going to need to be expanded, right? So town's growing. John Smith's going to need to grow as well. I agree. John Smith's going to need the expansion. We need the money. What I question is, do we need to grow too fast, too soon, just like Hollister has, right? Do we need to take the first deal that comes along? That is so Hollister. That is so San Benito County. And that would be so disappointing. Do we really need a regional facility to be a solution for the surrounding areas, or do we need a local facility that serves our needs, the needs of the people of this county? Because I understand and I agree that we need the funds. There will be a cost, a truly human cost, to get those funds. There's already a volatile, dangerous passenger vehicle traffic mixing with dump trucks and water trucks eventually on our roadways, just pounding along our roads. And lives have already been lost in the last few years on California and 156. I have to say, the growth has been incredible, and I believe this current form is just an irresponsible
Thank you.
decision.
Al
I urge
Orozco,
you to vote no.
please approach the podium. You will have 2 minutes.
Respectfully, my name is Al Roscoe. I'm a fourth generation San Benito County. My daughter and granddaughter next door to me are fifth and sixth. We take a lot of pride in this county, as all of you do. And we've received a lot of data, statistics, information. And with that, at the end of the day, as in any decision, you've got to ask yourself, common sense wise, does this make sense? It does not. Who would want to bring into our backyard outside waste to the tonnage that's being proposed? No one wants that. For whatever reason, it doesn't make common sense. The other issue, pride. What pride is it to be known in this county to be the dump of Central California? There's no pride in that. We have too much beauty, assets, much to work with, to have to stoop to those levels. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Listen to the people. We live here. They do not. The other thing is, most importantly, are we disclosing what's going on here? I spoke with developers, realtors, real estate agents. They don't disclose. Why not? By law, they don't have to. That's what they said. There's not enough distance to where we have to disclose, especially for the people that are living right up in that area, and all of us. It's not something we're proud of. I asked him, why not? As a realtor, you have ethics to go by. Why not? We don't make money off of it. Is this the right
Thank you.
decision? Thank you.
Chair, this is my last in-chambers public speaker
Okay.
card.
Please bring your cards forward.
Christina Chavez Wyatt, please approach
Once
the
we
podium.
go to Zoom, we will not return to the chamber. Please bring your cards forward now.
Good evening, Chair Gibson, commissioners, staff, and neighbors. My name is Christina Chavez Wyatt. I'm a resident minority small business owner. My family's been here for near 40 years and a household at Sunny Slope and Fairview on a septic tank. I'm a wife of a Spring Grove, I'm a wife of a farmer, a Spring Grove parent, a former County Fair Board 33rd Agricultural District representative, a longtime member of Farm Bureau, past president of Central Coast Young Farmers and Ranchers, and legislative directors for California Women for Agriculture. I'm a proud member of the San Benito County Chamber of Commerce and a member of our Green Business Committee and Hollister Downtown Association. And I'm happy to be a regular user of our local landfill services, including mattress and carpet and e-waste recycling, responsible disposal of household hazardous waste, chemicals, and electronic waste. I followed, examined, and attended public and community meetings on this opportunity for more than 2 years. I support the landfill expansion and to ensure and expand local control. It's very important to have local control to support for the protection of our environment, continue access to our critical infrastructure, rate controls for local businesses and residents to support current and future economic vitality, and avoid the consequences that come with siting, funding, and operating a waste transfer station, all on the backs of our low-income, majority-minority, overtaxed residents and small businesses. Alternatives citing a new landfill or a new transfer station are simply not viable in our community, nor would we want one sited in anyone's backyard. The cost impacts of $20 million in additional EIR, truck traffic, noise, and greenhouse gas emissions. Please consider maintaining and increasing our local control of our infrastructure, environment, economy, and our collective future. Thank you for your leadership.
Thank you.
Maureen Nelson, please approach the podium. You will have 2 minutes.
Good evening, and thank you. So I want to talk numbers. I love crunching numbers. So if we look at the 1,700-ton proposition, that would bring in $4,565,928, but it's not taking out the expenses. We're paying COLA, $234,000 annually. We're paying integrated waste staff, $145,000. We have pre-existing conditions of $30,000. I don't know what they are, but they're pre-existing. We pay the litter removal of $40,000 a year, of which others take credit for. So when you look at all of that, and when you look at our county's budget, $320 million annually, $320 million annually. So what does the revenue from this landfill bring us? It brings us less than 1.4%, 1.4% of our annual revenue for the county. That's nothing. But what it does bring us is the potential for environmental disasters, medical injustice. We're looking at a low-income population, as our other speaker just mentioned. Do you think this is fair to put this on them? To have a waste dump with 2,300 tons maximum, 1,700 tons, 1,500 tons? when we produce 240 tons, let's start looking at ways to reduce our waste. That's what this is what the world needs. Let us be leaders, not followers. Don't let us be paying the bills to the big corporations. Let us lead. Let us earn our money. Let us save our money, and let us save the earth. Thank you.
Thank you.
Carly Robles, please approach the podium. You will have 2 minutes.
I would like to comment on 3 items, the first of which is pollution. The concerned citizens of our county have advised you that they do not want pollution from chemicals seeping into the soil and water as a result of a liner failing. We are in one of the most earthquake-prone regions in the world. That's a huge concern. Light pollution. Do you like looking at the stars? If you pass this, that's going to go away with lighting from the operation, and it will be on your watch, pun intended. Air pollution. There are numerous airborne chemicals whose effects will be compounded as the size of the landfill increases. At most risks to this are the elderly and the children. Does the commission want this risk to be at their legacy? This could actually put the county at financial risk. Second is size. The size of the expansion when completed will be 483 acres. That is nearly the size of 483 football fields. Can you even fathom that? It will ultimately be 949 feet above sea level, which is 29 feet higher than is currently allowable. The third is a solution. The simple solution would be to use the 101 acres across the street from the current John Smith landfill to make it a facility for residents of only this county. It can be done. I would have liked to comment more than 2 minutes. This would have added less than 15 minutes to the public comments during the last few meetings. Is 20 minutes, 15 minutes too long for the commission to allow for free speech for such an important matter? You didn't even ask how many speakers there are here today. That should serve as a red flag to the public. It makes me question why you are only allowed to speak for 2/3 of our rightful time. Do you not like what we have to say? My group and I, sometimes the actual truth hurts. Please do the right thing and vote no on this.
Thank you.
Elia Salinas, please approach the podium. You will have 2 minutes.
Good evening, Commissioners. First of all, I was really offended, and I hope you all took notice of the racist remark that was stated earlier by using the word pansy. That is a racist remark. The expansion of the John Smith Rural Landfill can create a revenue stream for 80 years, starting at $3 million a year, increasing thereafter. The projection of the amount of time is based on the amount of garbage that can be brought in. Some folks here speak without facts about moving the landfill to a different location, even suggesting out of San Benito County, which we have no control over. The fact that the state has not permitted a new landfill for nearly 30 years. Otherwise, they are non-existent. A transfer station is our only option for future San Benito County garbage, which necessitates finding a site location, which I believe would be West San Benito County. And in whose backyard would that be? Then there's the cost of the EIR plus consultants, experts, attorneys' fees, and building costs. This current EIR costs well over $5 million. Our neighboring county of Santa Cruz spent tens of millions of dollars going through the EIR process, state permitting process, consultants, experts, attorneys, and fees, and the built-in costs of the transfer station. Santa Cruz has resigned to the fact that it will never have a landfill, which is currently tracking their garbage to the Marina landfill at triple the cost. What happens when Marina says no? Where does Santa Cruz County go? Where will San Benito County go with their garbage? Tremendous uncertainty for all, specifically San Benito County. The further the distance from San Benito County, the higher the garbage rates for San Benito County residents. Irresponsible claim of cancer clusters without scientific facts is unacceptable. Call Aaron Brockovich.
Annette Perez, please approach the podium. You will have 2 minutes.
Hello, my name's Annette Perez. I live in San Benito County, and just to clear things up, the speaker said patsy, which is an informal way of saying a person who is easily taken advantage of or cheated. So I'm here today to speak to the commissioners. I encourage you not to certify the EIR because the environmental impacts are significant and avoidable, and the benefits do not outweigh the detriments to our county. Our children and their grandchildren will be left with this massive landfill that threatens their environment, their air quality, and water supply. No landfill is completely safe. We'll be stuck with a nightmare. My mother lives here, my daughter lives here, my grandchildren live here. This young man talked about how he will be stuck with that trash, and it will be for the years to come. Our only option is not just a transfer station, as what I'm hearing. There was also an alternate in the EIR called Alternate 4, which is using our own land that's of 101 acres plus 67 more acres. Once John Smith is full, we have time to consider that. I believe once we start pulling out the food waste, we won't use 240 tons a day anymore. Why would our county leaders want to allow waste connections to deplete our water tables, damage our environments, our habitat, and pollute our air? Our roads are already impacted now, along with the addition of a 1 million square foot warehouse and all the proposed new housing tracts. We'll be in gridlock in our city. We're already there. The revenue shows that even as the tonnage of trash increases, our revenue is about the same. We have no control of the price Waste Solutions sets, but we can control the tonnage. The cheaper the trash is, the less our county makes. The revenue is based on the percentages. You do the math. It's a rotten deal for San Benito County. This is an environmental injustice to our children. As the speaker said before, you are the stewards of the land. You'll be making a very important decision. Make sure you make that wisely. What you do today will make a difference.
Thank you.
Zachary Headley, please approach the podium. You will have 2 minutes.
Is this the last speaker before we go to Zoom? Okay. Okay, well, please bring him up now.
Hello, my name is Zachary Headley, the middle of the road guy. So, reason why I'm speaking commission is to say thank you. Thank you for thinking about all of these things, the landfill, and bringing that to our community. I do believe that we have an ability here to actually grow this community and bring in lots of funds. I notice off the 101, you have different cities that kind of go down, deplete, gang activity, more activity, homeless activity, but Morgan Hill seems to be holding out. And we're on our own little island out here in Hollister. And I really believe that we can boost our economy if we do this right. So I'm asking the commission to look into this deeper. Maybe perhaps just like they have paid tollways in the Bay Area, maybe we talk to private landowners. Instead of dealing with pipelines and construction, maybe we can have our own toll area for trucks that can deliver trash only and go back. Different ideas of that nature. And also, if we're going to be collecting trash, that can be a big revenue, possibly understanding the technology that goes with that and being able to recycle that in a better way for maybe renewable energy. So looking into different aspects of taking the trash and not just pushing it into the land, messing with private aquifers, messing with our roads and current traffic coming back from the Bay Area, but actually looking at different avenues at being able to implement this entire idea that could stimulate the economy. And that's all I have to say about that.
Thank you. Last speaker.
I'm going to apologize in advance. All I can read is McGrady. Stacy McGrady, thank you.
So I'm last, I'll be fast. Stacy McGrady, Monterey County. I just thank you so much for all the work that you have done. I know that this has been a very long process in looking into this entire issue. I don't have all the information. I don't know what's the best decision, but this is what I do know. It's easy to say no. It's safe to say no. Many times leadership requires taking a risk. That's something I learned as a 4-H volunteer with the kids. Be a leader, take a risk. Leadership requires, as Brene Brown teaches us, it requires courage, and courage comes from the heart. Leadership requires vulnerability. There is no courage ever without vulnerability, and I appreciate all of you being here, being leaders. Like I said, I don't know what the right answer is, but I trust that all of you will take a risk and be a leader and come to the right decision. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Public comment is closed in the chambers. We'll go to Zoom now.
All right. Sergio Gonzalez, you have been unmuted. Can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I think so. Okay, perfect. So good evening, Board of Supervisors. Could you clarify why we pay more for the in-county garbage than for the out-of-county garbage, please? That's not clear to me after 3 days of discussion last week. And nobody, without a conflict of interest, will like the expansion. With that said, even if we pay $1 per ton of San Benito County garbage and other county pays $100 per ton, still be wrong. This is not about money. George Smith landfill is doing something wrong, and nobody would like to discuss the irreversible downsides of the expansion at all. You should stop the receiving out-of-county garbage. If you do so, instead of a space for 15 years, you could have a landfill for 250 years, 5 times more, keeping the same ratio. That's based on your calculations. So this is the big elephant in the room. There is, or there are more than 1,020 signatures against the landfill expansion collected in a very limited time on Do Not Dump on San Benito County website. You are collecting 80% of the garbage from outside of the counties, so from other counties because of your finance, not for other reasons. Landfill could innovate. Landfill could process recyclable materials. Landfill could recycle electronics and much more. Instead of doing that, you are trying to combine the Board of Supervisors to approve the expansion. Excuse my language, but John Smith needs a bigger toilet for his shit. So that is not okay. That is about money. That is not about our lives in our county. What is the right rate for people who is going to die in the road because of your garbage trucks? That's a side effect. What's the right fine for the increasing of number of cancer cases in Hollister because of the air pollution produced by the trucks and the landfill? According to the GHA impact, could you elaborate how the trucks are going to emit zero?
Bulls, you have been unmuted. You will have 2 minutes.
I didn't get a notice here. Oh, thank you. Hopefully you can hear me.
Yes.
I would like to say good evening to the commissioners. My name's John, and I live here in San Benito County. Last week, I spoke on this matter in the context of urging caution with respect to the business partner that you're dealing with. I said my piece and I went home, let the little red balloon go, only to find a representative from Waste Management distorting the facts on funding of the roads on the TV news of all places. So that gave me some motivation to go back and have another gander at the internet and spent about 15 minutes before I found anything. The browser had been basically whitewashed, which is not surprising. So in light of this, I urge a couple things. Number one, I urge the public to have a look at Waste Connections litigation history, both in California and other states. And this recommendation includes the commission. Have a look, please. You're going to find some stuff ranging from price gouging, employee violations, and refusal to comply with regulatory requests. That was an interesting one. It was local. It involved Alameda County. I'll let people look that one up. And secondly, I'm calling for the termination of any business relationship with respect to Waste Connections as it relates to this project specifically. Furthermore, I am calling for the suspension of this project until a vote is put before the people, not before the politicians with respect to decision. That's about all I have to say tonight. Thank you for your time. Have a good night.
And Kaja Irvin, you have been unmuted. Kaja? Oh no, Jackie Morris, you have been unmuted.
Thank you. Good evening, commissioners. My name is Jackie Morris Lopez. I am a San Benito County resident, live in San Juan Bautista, District 2. Full disclosure, I'm also a current city council member and previously a city planning commissioner. I've been listening to all of the speakers, and I have to concur that I really, really listen closely. And the pros did not impact me one bit. The cost is too high. If you're looking for revenue, and no disparaging to the young gentleman that said he wants a good life here in 15 years. Obviously, that gentleman was not born and raised here like a lot of us were. You know, you have to understand that this is a rural agricultural based county. We have a lot of assets. And if you're looking to gain money for the county, there are other ways. I believe Miss Dabo Cruz, Jane, she's a friend of my mom's. We've known her for many years, and I trust her opinion and her insight. Take this to the people. I'm a politician. Let the constituents vote on this. This is a huge, huge project with many, many impacts that can go on for decades. And when you talk about pollutants seeping into groundwater table, that really scares me. As we all know, water is a precious commodity now. It's probably going to be the cause of many wars in the future, long when I'm gone. And I think it's very egregious to sit here and say that you have an EIR that has points that are not able to mitigate, and you're willing to say, let's go for it. I think that is highly disrespectful to your constituents, to our community. I don't even live near the dump, but I respect that community.
Shyla D, you have been unmuted. You will have 2 minutes.
Yeah, my name is Shaila Padma. Actually, I'm reading on online like this. On October 28, 2014, Monta Vista High School student tragically died in collision with the big truck transporting, just like the hall that we are talking about, and the parents sued the public agencies. This is the news. And I was there in the same school, working on it as an educator. So one of my concern is, are there any warning signs on the roads will be put on around the local haulers might cause the dangerous street conditions and cause a trap for students attempting the riding bicycles around here? That's my question.
Thank you.
And Kasha Irvin, I'm going to try to unmute you one more time. You will have 2 minutes.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Katya Irvin, and I'm representing the Sierra Club Loma Prieta chapter. I'm a lifelong resident of Santa Clara County, and I have a strong connection to San Benito County. The Sierra Club is concerned about the proposed scale of this project. A larger dump will result in larger impacts if something happens, which is clearly possible as highlighted by the conditions of approval, which require financial assurance. We are particularly concerned about the possibility of unprecedented rainfall and runoff causing water pollution. Around the world, we're seeing events with yearly rainfall amounts occurring over 1 or 2 days, and there's no reason to assume that we are immune from that. Our chapter did comment on the draft EIR, including a request for adequate range of alternatives. Given the risks associated with landfills, we recommend approving an alternative with a lower permitted daily tonnage. Most of the community clearly doesn't want a significant increase in operations, and the potential impact of those operations on the community and the environment could be substantial. It's helpful to know that many nearby waste management facilities also accept materials from outside their counties where they're located. But it would also be useful to know the percentage of materials that come from outside the county for each of the 6 facilities that receive materials from San Benito County. I imagine the Planning Commission would also be interested in this information. Is it normal to accept 3 times or 8 times as much waste from outside of the county? So therefore, I urge you to take some time to get more information before making a decision on this landfill expansion. Thank you.
No more hands on Zoom.
Okay, thank you. Public comment is closed. Before we come back to the commission, I'd like to take a 10-minute break.
I have one late hand via Zoom, Chair. Will you allow it?
I'll reopen public comment for one late commenter.
Okay. Ravi K., you have been unmuted. You will have 2 minutes. Ravi, you've been unmuted.
Yeah, hello. Hi, this is Ravi Kumar. I'm a Hollister resident. So the cost analysis benefit that they published, it does not look like considering the people health issues and environmental impact, the amount of pollution these trucks actually bring into the city, and the cost of repair of the roads, it does not really add up any value at all to the county. And county can actually live within the means rather than looking for that 1% extra income that you guys are actually looking for. And the second thing is that it does not look like a democratic decision, because the decisions are made by very few people versus that you ask the county residents. And also that in the long term, like one of the gentlemen said that we won't be here, but you might actually leave a significant negative impact on the community and the people who live here, especially the children, grandchildren, they come and going to live here. It does not make any sense to bring in this out of county trash, particularly a massive size of this dump actually coming to here, and that actually create a environmental disaster. Very likely you might lose the revenue because most of the people might gradually move out of this toxic area. Thank you so much.
Is there any additional comment on Zoom?
I have one hand that keeps going up and down. I'm going to give you on Zoom 30 seconds to raise your hand if you would like to comment. Okay, Melissa Vargas, you have been unmuted. You will have 2 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Melissa Vargas. I am from Cal Recycle, and thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I'm here only to support the SB 1383 requirements to have jurisdictions to implement mandatory organic waste collection and recycling to divert organic waste from landfills. Capacity planning for organic waste recycling infrastructure is vital to help jurisdictions such as yours in meeting this mandate. The other thing I want to bring up is that these new and expanded facilities, such as the one proposed in San Benito County, are a vital part of California's recycling infrastructure and will benefit communities by offering new green-collar jobs, reducing greenhouse gases, and improving public health and the environment. The other thing I'd lastly like to bring up is compost has the power to heal our planet and accelerate America's move to a circular economy for all materials. And through the implementation of SB 1383, California is turning this potent source of climate pollution back into a resource to help feed our planet. Since California grows 1/3 of the nation's vegetables and 2/3 of America's fruits and nuts, agriculture has always been a fundamental part of California's economy, and compost is an age-old application that helps the soil. A letter has been submitted for your review as well. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there any final public comment?
There are no more hands, Chair.
Okay, going once, twice, sold. Public comment is closed for the last time. Thank you. Before we go to the commission's deliberations, I'd like to take a 10-minute break. See you back at 8:10. If you want to continue your conversations, please do so outside the chambers. The recess is over. Thank you. Back to commission deliberations. Were there any questions regarding the presentations or the project in general? Commissioner Scagliotti?
Yes, I have a question of the applicant, and it goes back to the qualifications of the truck drivers that haul the, for lack of a better word, trash in the community. What is the qualifications of that truck driver? What schooling do they get? I want to know what, they Class A drivers? What are they? I won't classify it to drug tests, everything. I want to know it all. And who pays for it?
Hi, Kurt Fuji, Northern California Region Engineer for Waste Connections. The drivers using our facility have to comply with the same requirements for commercial drivers working for anybody or working any route. The same class of license, the same drug testing, all of the same requirements. And they are hired by the landfill customers, and that training is covered by the landfill customers.
And all the drug testing and all the licensing is all covered by the customer. Has
Right.
nothing to do with San Benito County.
It has nothing to do with San Benito County, correct.
Okay. Commissioner Toledo?
We have had several citizens state that this should be the voter's choice. And I noticed that we do have our county clerk recorder here. The past several meetings, would it be possible for him or our staff to notify us if that is a decision? No?
There's always the referendum in California. If they don't like a decision, they always have the option to go collect signatures and put something on the ballot to reverse a decision of a body.
That's right.
That's their right in the Constitution.
Thank you.
Commissioner Way?
However, I think it is also true, and correct me if I'm wrong, that although we as a planning commission do not have the authority to implement a ballot measure, the Board of Supervisors would. And we could, if we chose to, recommend that the Board of Supervisors entertain the approach of placing this on the ballot. I would be willing to make a motion to that effect if we wanted to pursue that.
Okay. Any other comments at this time? Commissioner Ringhayden?
I am a little bit interested in what it would be involved in having the people actually vote for this.
I think we'd have to hear from the elections department to get that kind of information. Francisco, if you could please describe what that process may look like.
Thank you, Francisco.
Good afternoon. I wasn't planning on speaking today, but
you look sharp.
Thank you. So to answer your question, yes, the Board of Supervisors would have to take an action. That action will have to take place before December 8th for it to be able to qualify for this upcoming March election. So essentially there's about 2 more board meetings and that decision in order to go forward to the voters. Otherwise, if it goes past that deadline, it would go for the November election or a special election, which then it becomes the decision of the Board of Supervisors. Answer the question?
Any other questions for Mr. Diaz? No? Okay. And I had questions about, not from you, sir, thank you. I had questions about the city of Hollister and the tonnage required to accomplish the cleanup. I have concerns as well about going that high in order to accomplish that and what that means for the community. I also have questions about the fees being charged both in and out of county. And I don't feel like we need to be rushed into making any decisions. Obviously, there's a deadline about an election, but it doesn't have to be this year. I don't see why we would have to rush a decision, yay or nay, on this. It doesn't make any sense. This thing has been in progress for years, and why the Planning Commission only has a short time to do it does not make any sense to me at all. So I would like to continue it for some time to think more about what the ramifications are, what the rates are, what Hollister's involvement is, and that's my 2 cents. Any other comments? I like your comment. Thank you, Commissioner Ringhayden. Commissioner Way?
Yes, I would also like the commission to consider adding a condition of approval, if we were to go forward with this at any level, that the construction on Highway 25 that's currently underway should be substantially complete before any significant increase in the amount of traffic on that road would be taking place from the haul trucks.
That's a very good suggestion. I didn't know if Steve has is that spring of 2024 that they're planning on getting the Grand Turbo completed? Yep, okay. Any other thoughts from the commission? Is there a motion?
No thoughts from me, no motion.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I would ask that if there is a motion or preference to continue it, that if it's preferred to continue it to a date certain, that way we would be able to notify or be known now as opposed to send notification at a later date.
No. I'd like to take a little time to explore things before going either way. And I don't know what calendars look like for everybody, whether it's before the end of the year or after the end of the year. I think it would take time to find those answers as far as where and what the city of Hollister has to offer regarding this situation, and if we're going to increase the tonnage significantly to cover that cost for them. Do they have an interest in us doing that, or does it do the negative impacts, are they not worth it to the city for that purpose? So I would like more time, and possibly January, mid-January. I don't know what everyone's calendars look like. If we want to try to squeeze it in before the holidays, I know Commissioner Scaliotti's out part of November. I'm out most of December, and I have no idea what y'all are doing. I know you just got your cruise. So if there's a willingness to continue it, I would hope that we could do something in January after the first week so that I could be here.
I make a motion, we continue it to January.
It's a special meeting, regular meeting. I
meeting.
don't know if we could wrap it up at the regular meeting in January, or if we need a special meeting to.
Make it a special meeting.
Special meeting?
I'll second that.
Okay. Is there we have to get a date certain on it?
Sorry.
24th, please. Does that work for everybody?
No.
January? No?
No, my wife's
31st?
having surgery on the 22nd. I'd like to do it before. You be back before?
No, I won't be back.
You won't be back? 31st then.
31st?
That works.
That work?
It's 6.
No, my wife, not me.
Ah.
That's
Okay.
good for me.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, well, there's a motion on the table to continue this item until January 31st, 2024 at 6 p.m. right here in these chambers. Is there a second for that?
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Good man.